Okay, welcome. Today I thought I would offer a reflection about the magician archetype and just talk about this aspect of the king, warrior, magician, lover. So enjoy. Okay, so tomorrow evening I am doing a men's circle. I've been doing them every 2 weeks online. You can find them on my website at piers-cross.com. And every 2 weeks for the last 8-9 months, we've been going through the archetypes. So what are the archetypes? The archetypes are, it's like depth psychology. It comes through the myths, the legends, and essentially it's like a language for those aspects of ourselves that we maybe can't see. The way Robert Moore talks about, he says, if you imagine a piece of paper, you've got iron filings on the top. He says the archetypes are like the magnets underneath, that we can see the movements happening on the top, the patterns which are being created on the surface, but we don't see the magnet underneath. And those are the archetypes, and for example, we see them play out in religion, in myths, in study, in society. So these four key areas: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And obviously for females it's the queen instead. And so for me the idea is that we learn to understand these, and we learn to kind of connect to these. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the magician, because tomorrow that's what we're going to be talking about, the magician. The magician is that part of ourselves that wants to know. So you just have to understand that you have an immature form, and then you have a mature form. And then if you imagine a triangle, this is four sides of a pyramid. If you imagine a triangle, at the top you've got the magician, and at the bottom you've got the bipolar shadow, and the shadow aspects of those parts of ourselves that we can't see. So for the magician, the shadow is the Trickster Manipulator. Think of the Joker in the Batman movies, and then in the other side you have the denying innocent one. So on these bipolar shadows you have the active pole. So it's more, you're active, you're out playing. You imagine the Joker, he's not sat at home, he's going and he's causing chaos for Batman. And then you've got the introverted, which is more of the passive pole, which is more kind of inward. So the denying innocent one, that's an aspect of ourselves where we might be playing tricks on people. So we might be, having an affair, or we might be doing something, but we're going, no, I'm not. Or we might be, criticizing our boss behind their backs, and we're like, oh, I didn't mean to upset you. So that's kind of the shadow form. And what Robert Moore talks about, who their book, the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. This is a great book. Also Rod Boothroyd's book, which is Warrior, Magician, Lover, King. Again, I find Rod Boothroyd's book really good. It goes into a lot more depth, just about different processes for connecting to them. So and it's much simpler. This is a great book, but it's like I've been reading this solidly for at least 4 or 5 years now, and I'm just, as you can see, just going deeper and deeper into it. So I've forgotten what I was talking about, but so what they talk about, Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette, is that we have to connect to the bipolar shadow. We have to work through that in order for us to really move into fullness with the magician. So what are some of the positive qualities of the magician? So the magician is that part of us that wants to know. So if you imagine that you've got a clock and you see this clock and you're like, oh, you want to know how that works. So you pull it apart and then you try and build it yourself. It's like you you have this thirst for knowing. So with the archetypes or with the self, so I've been through a lot of struggles in my life and I've wanted to understand, well, how do I heal from this? Boarding school syndrome. How do I understand about boarding school syndrome? Not only for myself, but so I can help others. Health-wise, how can I have real vital, great health? So I'm always studying. That's the magician. So it's like the mind aspect. The warrior, that's more the physical aspect. So the warrior is about action. So I was listening to a talk by Robert Moore today, and he's saying, if you believe that you just live in the magician, then what happens is it's often in denial because you don't do anything. You're just thinking. You're lost in your head and you're thinking. And therefore, you have these 4 different aspects. So the lover is more feeling, emotion, and the king is more structuring and blessing. And if you enjoy these videos, please do comment below or put a like, and I'll do the others on this on the 4 archetypes. So the magician, it's about understanding. It's about knowledge. It's like, right, how does this work? I want to understand how I can have a better relationship. I read the books, I study. But the problem is if we feel that it's just the magician, then we won't do anything. We don't go into and we don't act. We don't engage the warrior, and we don't actually do the practices which help our relationship. We might study stuff. We might go off to lots of workshops, but we don't do a practice. We don't implement it. So that's why it's really important for us to work on the 4 quadrants. And as Robert Moore talks about, there's a book, I've forgotten his name now, but it's called The Lord of the 4 Quarters. We become the Lord of the 4 quarters. So yeah, I've got lots of notes here. What other things would I say about the magician? So the magician as well, another aspect of the mature magician is about initiation. So this is something that's been around for thousands of years, and I just started to read again Iron John by Robert Bly, and in it he talks about this story, Iron John, and he says this story's been around 20,000 years, and it talks about initiation, how we move from the house of the mother to the house of the father, how we go from being a boy to a man. And the archetypes, it's very similar. It's taking us from the immature form, and the immature form of the magician is the precocious child. The immature form of the magician is like, we're just really good at stuff. We're good at music, we're good at sport, we're bright at school, we want to learn stuff, we want to teach others. That's the precocious child. That's the immature form. So that's what's kind of hiding. That's an aspect of the magician, that thirsting for knowledge, wanting to understand, and then wanting to share that knowledge with others. Where it goes into shadow is with the magician is that you can see this currently in society, is that someone gets some knowledge but then they don't share it. Or a bit like internet marketers can be, it's like, yeah, I'm going to tell you when you buy this, I'm going to show you this when you subscribe, rather than giving everything. And even when they do, they hold things back. Whereas the magician learns, and then when someone is ready, he will teach them. He will teach them what they learn, what they need to know. So the initiation aspect of the magician is not just about initiating others. So this might be a rite of passage, it might be working as an elder, that you guide someone else, but it's also initiating yourself. And Robert Moore talks about 4 key initiations, and it's the king, the magician, the warrior, lover. We initiate ourselves into this. And one of his quotes on one of his talks, he says, when we get an urge to find an outer elder or magician, this is actually our calling to find the inner magician, to find that part of ourselves to initiate us. So I guess I could talk about this for a long time. So I'll come back to the simplicity of this. So it's about knowledge, it's about wanting to understand, so it calls it the master of technology. It's about initiation. Another aspect of the magician is to do with transformation, is realizing that anything can be transformed. It's like the alchemist of life, I think Robert Moore talks about. So it's like we have that aspect within ourselves. We have a challenge, say like COVID-19 lockdown, and we go, how can I turn this into a positive? What can I learn from this? So rather than seeing it as lead, they turn it into just lead, they turn it into gold. And it's that inner transformation. And if you look at the ancient alchemists, that's what they were doing. It wasn't just turning lead into gold, they were turning the lead in themselves, those shadows, into gold. And if you look at Isaac Newton, he was said to be an alchemist. If you look at his papers, which were not published, if you look at some of these other mages over the years, like the Da Vinci's, they were also studying to be alchemists. They were kind of learning the magician because they were learning to cultivate that within themselves. So that's another aspect. I'm going to just look through some of my notes, see if there's anything else here. But I think that's a good a beginning. So if you want to learn more, I'm doing my men's circles every 2 weeks. Just go onto my website, onto online men's circles, and you put your email address in there. I'll send out the link every 2 weeks on the Monday. You can also find me on Facebook. I put the events up every 2 weeks. What other things? Yeah, so in its purest forms, the magician, he wants to know, to see, to understand, and to discern. Yeah, and I'll say the final part. So the idea with the magician, we learn to initiate ourselves. But I was listening today, and he just says a fully initiated man is usually not liked. It's like if you imagine a really powerful man, a warrior, he speaks his truth, a king, he guides, a lover, he's passionate, a magician, he's bright. It's like when we shine, often people go, whoa, that's too much. And the examples that Robert Moore gave were Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, people who were in that, they were initiated men. You look at Nelson Mandela, again, initiated man. Lots of people loved him, but there were a lot of people who did not like him, especially pre the changes in South Africa. Yeah, so I think I'm going to just stop there. Like I say, if you'd like me to go into more depth, I can do. If you want me to talk about the shadows, I can talk about the shadows of the manipulator, trickster, and the others, and also the immature forms. So yeah, just please let me know. It's something, like I said, I've studied basically since 2002, so it's something I'm very passionate about. So yeah, enjoy, and yeah, if you have any questions, please do leave them below. Okay, any blessings. Take care.